We're back, the Neil Haley Show, in the Total Celebrity segment, and this is history in so many ways because I always think of Robert Carradine, and when I think of him in Revenge of the Nerds, but never about the Westerns and the Carradine name. And my other guest had Robert in a film. He's a director and a producer, but the story goes on and on about different things. So I'm excited to welcome to the program Robert Carradine and Richard Gabai. Guys, thanks for calling, and how are you?
Oh, good, Neil. Thanks for having us on, man.
Oh.
Hey, Neil. And, Neil, I got to tell you, my first image of Robert Carradine was actually in a Western. I think it was like 1972 when I just moved to California, went to the Edwards Cinema in Costa Mesa, and my brother and I went to see a great Western called The Cowboys that starred John Wayne and Robert Carradine.
So, let's go to this, Robert. Everyone thinks of you in Revenge of the Nerds, but the truth is, you started out in Westerns, right? Especially because of the Carradine name, right?
Well, I don't think the Carradine name hurt me, and my first film in my life was with John Wayne in The Cowboys.
Wow.
John Wayne and Roscoe Lee Brown.
And that's got to be amazing to work with John Wayne, your first film.
Yeah, it was my first film. I'd been on location about a week, and I tried to tell Mr. Wayne that he should change the dialogue in the scene that we were doing. And this seemed like a good idea at the time, but what a 17-year-old kid is doing on his very first movie set, telling John Wayne how to do a scene, I don't know. But I did it.
And rumor has it that John Wayne had quite a response to young Mr. Carradine. What was that, Bobby?
Well, basically, blankety blank, 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 you're a bigger blank than your old man ever was, etc.
Oh, my. So, Robert, you get a really, that starts out first time. Did you have that kind of bravado as a 17-year-old coming in and deciding that you're going to talk to the legend John Wayne like that?
I guess so. I just having no idea what the hierarchy is on a motion picture set. It just seemed like a good idea to tell him that he was screwing up his line.
Wow. And Richard, when you heard that story, you probably fell on the floor because you've been involved in Westerns for years as well, right? To know that after his first film to do something like that.
Well, I think it's the kind of thing you can only maybe do or get away with on your first film. I thought it was just a hilarious story. And being friends with Bobby all these many years, I could completely see him doing it from a complete place of just purity and friendship and not knowing how show business really works. I mean, I had a similar situation early in my career where a really famous producer had me read a script when I was like 22 years old. And I went back to him and I said, I don't think this script is very good. And he was like, what? This famous director is going to direct it and these two huge stars are going to star in it? And then 6 months later, he invited me to the screening, and it was the worst film anybody had ever seen. And that very same producer said, Richard, what's wrong with this film? And by then I had learned, you don't say, remember I told you the script was bad. So I kind of think that was a similar experience for Bobby. He was just seeing something in a scene that he didn't think was right, and he kind of told the guy. Yeah, that's all.
Well, that kind of reminds me of my days in pro wrestling when I kind of gave advice to specific veterans in the business, and then I ended up taking pretty much heat. You at least got yelled at. I got hurt in the ring where they had to shoot on me because I made mistakes by saying certain things to wrestlers in the back and then get them in the ring. So it's a little different story, but it's kind of also the kind of thing that you really get your ego you're set in check now after that, Robert. Okay, I'm not going to do that again.
No, but I'm still emotionally scarred, if you know what I mean.
I understand.
But here's the best part of the whole story. He took my suggestion.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Now, so, Robert, let's talk about growing up with your father. And so you were involved. Were you on the set at a really young age with Westerns?
Only a couple of times. I visited him out in the western part of the San Fernando Valley in a movie ranch called Corriganville. And I visited him on the set of The Patsy with Jerry Lewis and Peter Lorre. And that was about it for being on the set with my old man.
Interesting, interesting. And you always wanted to be an actor, Robert?
No, I didn't want to be an actor at all. I wanted to be a racing driver.
Wow. Would you think of, see, I always think of Robert Carradine, thinking about the nerd saying a race car driver. So, okay. So that's a picture I wouldn't have thought of. Richard, tell us the story of meeting Robert the first time.
Well, I think Robert and I was producing, I got to tell you the real beginning, because the real beginning, I'm also, I'm kind of a hybrid myself, acting and producing, directing, and music. And when I first got out of college, I instantly got a Budweiser commercial, and I was kind of making a living. And then I kind of decided I wanted to make my own movie. And so the first movie I made was actually a ripoff of Revenge of the Nerds. I made this movie called Assault of the Party Nerds.
My goodness.
And it, it sort of has a cult following, been re-released a million times. So it was really interesting how then I become friends with Bobby when I kind of started my career by ripping off his movie. So in 2004, I was producing a movie for Fox called Supercross, and Bobby was one of the stars. And I walked onto the bus one day, and he was there playing guitar, and he's pretty good. In fact, he's really good. And he kind of looked at me with that same arrogance he showed John Wayne, and he said, "Not bad for an actor, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah, not bad." So we instantly bonded because we're both guitar players. So first met in 2004. And then several years, we stayed in touch a little bit. And then in 2009, I think, I made a modern day adaptation of Call of the Wild in 3D with Christopher Lloyd and a bunch of other stars.
Oh, wow.
And Bobby came out to the premiere at the Santa Barbara Film Festival because he was living out there at the time. And we reconnected then. And then, of course, when I got the script for Justice, I saw this great opportunity to have Robert in the movie, and also to bring him back to the ranch where he shot The Cowboys with John Wayne, because we actually shot at the same ranch in New Mexico that he shot The Cowboys at.
It's kind of a full circle deal.
Yeah, it's a great story. That's why I wanted Richard on, and Richard has had some really interesting stories as well. I think you two, like if I had a beer with you guys in LA, it would be just so many stories of different people you guys brushed elbows with in greatness, and you also attain greatness in certain ways. So it's very, very interesting. Robert, after Revenge of the Nerds, did you want it? Were Westerns calling you? Would you say, or yeah?
I would say that Westerns are always calling me. If I have a choice between two movies and one of them is a Western, I will take the Western, because I love the whole genre. I love Winchester rifles. I love Colt single action revolvers. I love being on the land on a horse. It's a lifestyle that is long gone that I love replicating, especially on a movie set, because it's just so great. We get to ride the horse, you get to shoot the guns. The food's pretty good, and I really like it. I mean, Westerns, in my opinion, are where it's at.
It definitely seems like it again. And Richard, and is that the kind of thought process you have as well? And I think Westerns are making a big comeback for sure as well, Richard, in this time. Don't you agree with?
Yeah, I certainly hope so. And I, making a Western was on my cinematic bucket list. So when I was offered Justice, I didn't even worry about what the deal was or anything. I just jumped on it. And when I was, my father kind of inspired me to want to make movies and to love art and music. And, and it was musicals, Westerns, and Universal horror films. So I jumped at the chance to make a Western, and I can't wait to make another one.
Well, that's great. You found that passion, and you keep got to raise the money, right, Richard? It's not that simple. It's saying,
the thing that's really difficult about it is that Westerns don't do well overseas. There's only a couple of little sales, so it's strictly a U.S. commodity. So that makes it difficult. I mean, we got lucky on Justice. I mean, I wasn't a producer on Justice. I was hired to direct the film, and I ended up producing the post or whatever. But, I didn't raise the money. So, I mean, fortunately, we were picked up by Universal, and the film has done really well. So, That doesn't happen all the time. And then if we want to make a Western that we know will monetize, the budget has to be a little bit too low to pique my interest at this point. But if I was going to do something with no money, it would probably be a Western would probably be the winner, because I can't wait to do that again.
Interesting. Now, Robert, the kind of thinking after your first film is with John Wayne, and then you get the audition for Revenge of the Nerds. That's got to be that's a really different role for sure. And was it something that when you first heard it said, oh, really, this is not going to do well? Did you think it was going to get the cult following and it did?
Well, first of all, Revenge of the Nerds is 1984. The Cowboys was 1972. So that's 12 years of the Big Red One, the Long Riders, the Hatfields and the McCoys, Blackout, all these other movies came along. And then when Revenge of the Nerds first showed up, I just flat out was not interested, because I wasn't going to be in a movie called Revenge of the Nerds. I mean, my thinking was, Mel Gibson wouldn't do it. I'm not doing it. But my agent said, look, you got to go in and have a meeting, because this is a studio film. And, just go forward with it. Go forward. So I went in and I met the director. We didn't really get along. I had long hair. I was wearing my cowboy boots and my jeans. I mean, I was the polar opposite of a nerd. I think I went to the audition on my motorcycle.
Oh, my goodness. I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was it. And then I had a callback. I thought, okay, if I have a callback, I can't leave any stone unturned. So I went out and I cut all my hair off with a regular boy's haircut. And I went to an optometrist in Sherman Oaks looking for a pair of glasses that looked nerdy. And the optometrist comes out. He says, can I help you? I said, not at these prices, because every frame he had was $300. And he said, well, what are you looking for? I said, well, I need something, that looks nerdy. He says, oh, I got just the thing. And he went in the back in his office and he pulled out a shoebox covered with probably 20 years of dust. And he reached in and pulled out some of those glasses that you see in the 60s movies of the engineers. I said, those are perfect. So I got the glasses for $60. I went on the audition. And when the casting lady came out to call me into the meeting, she looked right at me and went back in her office. She did that 2 or 3 times. And finally I said, hey, what's going on? I'm here for an audition. And she looked at me and she said, oh, my God, Robert? And I said, yeah. She said, oh, my, you look different. I didn't recognize you. Come on in. And that was sort of how I got the part.
So you, once it did so successful at the box office, then you're somebody who loves Westerns, loves doing films like this, and you never thought this kind of thing. So did you really try to stop yourself from being typecasted right after the success of the films?
Well, it just kind of turned out that way. I did a film based on the Broadway play called As Is, which is the story of a young man dying of AIDS and coming to grips with it, and how people in his life are treating him now that he has that horrid disease. Then I also did kind of a buddy picture that I think was loosely based on Lethal Weapon. It was me and Billy D. Williams. It was called Number One with a Bullet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was definitely not nerdy.
All right. So Richard, so this is the surprise. Now, I would have never thought this till I heard about this. Again, you're going to introduce and honor Robert at the 21st Annual Spur Awards. Now, explain that to us and understand why he's going to be awarded there with a Lifetime Achievement Award. What? Give me, I guess, not just his experience with the Duke and all that stuff. What gives him that in that genre to say, hey, he definitely needs to be honored? Explain that to us, Richard.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. If I didn't know you were friendly, you might be glad you're farther away from arm's length. Of course, he deserves this award. I mean, his first movie was with the Duke, and as he said, he did the Long Riders, did the Hatfields and McCoys. He did my Western, and he just recently did another Western. So he's been starring in Westerns for his entire career. So I think it's he's as honored to be getting the award as they are honored to be able to have him there to accept it.
Wow. So I'm not saying anything. I'm just, again, learning that I know him as, again, Revenge of the Nerds. So that's what I'm just bringing up. Guys,
Yeah,
if I was sitting
in
right next
fact,
to you at
you're
a
talking
television
about
interview.
between
Yeah, so
I mean, between the Cowboys and Revenge of the Nerds, like Bobby mentioned, he starred in the Big Red one, and that was with Lee Marvin, directed by Sam Fuller.
Yep.
I mean, the guys, and for me growing up, is Bobby's got a couple of years on me. I went to see the Big Red one in theaters. I went to see the Cowboys in theaters. To me, Revenge of the Nerds was just another one of the movies he did, and and that's why when I put him in my Western, and I did a TV movie for Lifetime last year with Danica McKellar and Jim O'Heir and Jonathan Bennett, and there was a role of the judge, and I said, "Hey, Bobby, you want to come play a judge?" Absolutely. And all the executives at Lifetime, they didn't think of it. They didn't even know Revenge of the Nerds because they're all younger. They recognized him as the father on Lizzie McGuire. He had a whole other TV series on Disney for years. So, if Disney wants to give him an award for being the dad on Lizzie McGuire, I'd go present that one too if he asked me. So, I don't know. I don't have that. I guess I don't have that same perception.
That's fine. And I guess I love the 80s, Robert. Don't kill me for that reason. But guys, I could have asked that if I was arm's length, just because I'm 6'10", used to be over 300 pounds, about 260 now. So I'm a pretty big guy. So I can, but knowing Robert after the story with the Duke, I guess what? I think he would look at me in the eye and say, "What are you saying, Neil?" I just wanted to kind of get Richard, because you're good friends with him, about Robert and why he deserves this award. Because again, a lot of people don't know all of the movies you've been in. Especially, I'm telling you, there's a specific core audience that remembers him in Revenge of the Nerds, and that's the thing for sure, Robert.
Of course,
Yeah.
I totally know what you mean. I find it really funny that you actually needed to describe your stature to defend yourself. I was kidding, dude. And by the way, I've been a ring announcer in professional wrestling for fun. I don't know if you ever were familiar with Fred Olin Ray's wrestling league, and I even was in there with him with Abdullah the Butcher and a lot of the old classics.
Oh, really? Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, but anyway, I just don't think that there's any question that as far as guys that are still with us that have been in classic westerns and are known for westerns, Bobby's definitely one of them. And I have a similar thing since I started in B comedies like Assault of the Party Nerds and Virgin High and Dinosaur Island and Bikini Drive-In. People hear that I'm, directing a Western, and they sometimes would write a similar thing because they know me from these B movies. Hey, this is the guy that starred in the Roger Corman movie Dinosaur Island. Now he's making a Western. What does he know about Westerns? But at the end of the day, filmmaking and acting, it's a craft and a trade. And those of us that are blessed enough to know how to do it and make a living at it, we can work on Westerns and we can work on 80s comedies. And believe me, I'm the subject of the same thing. Don't get me wrong. I love Revenge of the Nerds, a movie they'd never be able to make today, by the way, because of the humor.
Yeah, it was pretty saucy. I'm trying to find this Western that I did for a mutual friend of Richard's and mine, a director named Steve William. And I'm going to look it up here because it was a really cool part. Just a second. I'll find it here in a second.
No worries.
In the meantime, what else is on your mind?
I want to go back to Robert. See, so I love having a conversation, and especially Robert now with the wrestling. We're friends on Facebook, and hey, now you'll have to find out. But just to go with the story really quick, Robert, about wrestling till Richard, till Robert comes back to us. I beat Jerry the King Lawler. So you know who the King is, and wrestled with the Headbangers down south, and The Rock wore my knee pads. So I have an interesting down south before he made it. So I've brushed with greatness as well before going back, becoming a teacher, then going back into entertainment and entrepreneurship. So I have stories and who I've met in my time. So that's why I love interviewing guys, and I love to tell a story because we hear too much where it's just the stuff that you guys already know. I like to talk about things that not many people know about. And that's what makes it entertaining. So people say, okay, I'm going to tune in and listen to this whole story. And Richard, you make the story with Robert because of your relationship, your friendship, and then by presenting for sure. So and again, there's going to be a lot of amazing people on the 21st in September. Isn't that correct, Richard?
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing bunch of people. Amazing bunch of people are coming just to hang out, and I'm honored to be a part of it. And you're definitely right about me and Bobby being friends, because there's all kinds of interesting things just sort of keep coming up. Like the neighborhood that I lived in with my wife and kids, when he came over, he's like, "Oh, I grew up down the street." Like I had no idea that he lived in my very same neighborhood. But yeah, the 21st is building up to be a very special night full of a bunch of great stars. And I predict a standing ovation when Bobby comes up to take his award.
Well, your mouth to God's ear. What can I tell you?
And Robert, did you find that, by the way?
Yeah, I did. It was called Time Cop, the Berlin Decision. And what that was kind of a time travel movie. But the part of the movie that I'm in was the Western. And I was playing a real mean bartender with a sawed-off shotgun. It was pretty memorable.
So, my gosh, I would never have thought that. But again, that's what happens. I would have thought, oh, a nerd, and you played all these villains and tough guys. So, Robert, but you had that persona and that bravado at 17. So you had to kind of really act in Revenge of the Nerds. But truly who you are is this mean, tough guy that's not going to take no from an answer.
Well, I'm not that tough, but thank you, Neil. And I am a little bit nerdy. I fly remote control model airplanes, and I'm also a ham radio operator.
Okay.
Much nerdier than that. But those aren't things I really tell people about, so we'll just keep it between us.
And all my listeners and fans.
Right. No, you and all the listeners.
Now, Richard, last thing. Are there other people that you want to let people know about the 21st and where people can find information and can attend this event and stuff? Are there still tickets available and stuff for it, Richard? Or how's it work?
I don't know specifically. And in fact, it was Bobby invited me to introduce him, so I haven't actually spoken to any of the people at the event yet. Bobby might. There's a website, I believe.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up right now for you, Neil, because I know they have one. I just want to make sure I get it right for you and your listeners.
Oh, well,
I think is it Real Cowboys or something, or
well, that's the organization that puts it on.
But I know that the website I saw, there were tickets for sale, and there's a list of amazing people that are going to be there. I think. Some of the other, Billy Zane and some of the other presenters.
Okay, so it's called realcowboys.org, and real is spelled REEL, like a reel of film.
Okay.
And if you go to realcowboys.org, you can find out everything you need to know about the Silver Spur Awards.
Robert, are you active on social media, by the way, like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook? What are your?
Let's put it this way: I have a Twitter account. I have a Facebook account, neither of which I use, but I have them. I don't, basically I text and I use the phone. I'm not much of a social media person.
All right. And what about you, Richard? I think you have to because of promoting films and stuff. You have to.
Absolutely.
That's part of the game.
So yeah, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So, everyone please connect. And one thing I always like to say, and I really appreciate and respect your angle on this, because I like having conversations too. And when other filmmakers or fans write to me, I really try and write back and answer any questions that people have. Also at my website, richardgabai.net, RICHARDGABAI.net. And the best thing is I released an album last year that's streaming on all the services, Apple Music, Spotify, and all the rest. Uh-huh. I had a band and played up and down the Sunset Strip, even having like about a dozen gigs where the Stone Temple Pilots opened for me, if you can believe that. And I ended up sort of focusing on film and acting instead of music, but I still love music, and I recorded an album last year in the late, great Glenn Campbell's studio with his brilliant son, Cal Campbell, producing it. So that album, Double Life, is streaming on all the services. So give it a listen. Also, it's a really good record, Neil.
All right. Well, you guys are a great tandem. I tell you, you got to start doing a bunch of different things together, interview-wise, because you each know each other's words. So that's good. So what you're going to
Yeah,
say
it's
next?
good. I mean, maybe we should do a reality show.
Hey, I think that would be perfect, especially for people that don't know what happened to Robert Carradine in that way and telling a story.
What happened to Robert Carradine was he ran into a truck, and then thanks to Richard Gaba, he was reborn in the Western Justice.
All right. That's a great point, guys. But thanks for calling. Best of luck and good luck on the 21st. And definitely we'll stay in touch, guys. All right.
Thanks, Neil. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Neil.
All right. Take care. Thanks. See you later, guys.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. We're back. The Neil Haley Show on the Total Celebrity segment, and I am excited to welcome to the show. We all know him from The Nanny, Murphy Brown, Charles Shaughnessy. Charles, thanks for calling, or should I say, I was doing some research on you, Lord Shaughnessy. How are you?
Lord Shaughnessy,
Yeah,
that's right. Good morning, Neil. Yeah, that happened about 10 years ago. My great-grandfather was the Canadian Pacific Railroad president in Canada, and for services to the Crown during the First World War, he was given a baronetcy and became the first Lord Shaughnessy of Montreal and Ashford County, Limerick. And then it sort of went through all the Canadian Shaughnesses and then ran out of male heirs and bounced down to the British Shaughnesses, and I was it. I was, tag, you're it. I became Lord Shaughnessy.
Oh, wow. So has that changed your life in any way, by the way, Charles?
No, all I have is a very moldy robe up in the attic, and when there is a coronation, my wife and I will be summoned by the Crown to come and watch the coronation with all the other peers of the realm. So that's the only thing that changed. There was no family fortune, there were no castles, no band of loyal retinue that would kind of move in and defend me against all trouble. But it was, it's a thrill to be part of that name. I mean, I'm very proud of my great-grandpa. He came as an Irish immigrant, penniless Irish immigrant, escaping the potato famine, and worked in the railroads in Milwaukee and worked his way up to the CPR.
How about that? That's a great story, and I was watching the television interview you had, I think, in Australia that talked to, it was a really good interview to kind of give me some background on you more than just understanding The Nanny. Now, let's kind of go into, Charles, did you always want to be an actor? You have a great voice, so was that the thing that you said, hey, I got to go out and act because of...
It's a funny story. I loved reading out loud in school when I was, 5 or 6, we were, reading out loud, learning to read. And the teacher would say, who wants to read out loud? And everyone would dive under their desks, except me. I would jump out with my hands in the air. And the teacher would say, all right, Shaughnessy, off you go. Is there anyone other than Shaughnessy wants to read? So I just loved it. I loved reading characters and making the class laugh and sort of listen to every word I was saying. And so when we got to do a school play, I thought I was going to be the star. I thought I'd be Peter Rabbit in Peter Rabbit and Farmer McGregor. And my best friend, Peter Robinson, was cast as a star, was Peter Rabbit, and I was just the third bluebird from the left. And I felt so devastated. I had two emotions. One was devastation that I wasn't going to be the main character. And then the second, almost immediately, was a sense of surprise that this meant so much to me. I was like, I had a sort of meta moment. I was upset, and then I was really intrigued by how upset I was and thought, wow, I must really want to do this. This must be something significant. So I sort of worked as an actor at school. I acted all the time, but I didn't become a professional till much later. I thought by the end of my academic career, I would go to college and study law and tried to do something sensible with my life. But it didn't work out, and I ended up, following my passion after all and became an actor.
So very interesting. So did you stay where you grew up, or did you decide just to move right to LA when it didn't work out?
No, I never thought I'd live anywhere other than England. I trained at an English drama school, a Central School of Speech and Drama in London. But in my second year, Central would always have 3 Americans come each year to study from abroad. And one of these Americans was a very exotic ballet dancer from Studio City, California. And I was very surprised and excited when she agreed to go out on a date with me. And we kind of started dating, and then I finished and went to work in England. She finished and came back to work in America. But after a while of a long-distance relationship, we just decided, I said, I really want to be with this woman. So I called up and proposed, and she said yes. And so the next minute I was on a plane with all my worldly possessions and moved out to California to get married. And we've been living in California. We've got 2 gorgeous grown-up daughters now.
Wow.
We've just celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary, and the rest was history.
Well, congratulations, and that's a great story. So you guys moved to L.A. and get married, and you kept this relationship. There's not many Hollywood marriages that last that long, are there, Charles?
No,
not at all.
We're one of the survivors.
All right, so let's kind of go talk about, so from once you got to L.A., how long was it till you got the part in Murphy Brown? How many years in L.A. till that
Well,
happened?
Murphy Brown came out of the blue. For the first thing that happened was I got on Days of Our Lives. I got on a soap opera. Well, first I got on General Hospital for a week. That was great. I'd been doing a lot of theater, and through the theater work, I got an agent. And through the agent, I got a week on General Hospital. And from General Hospital, I got onto Days of Our Lives as what was meant to be just a short 3-day stint. But it turned into 8 years on the soap opera. And so after 8 years, I've decided I had to leave that because otherwise I'd be there the rest of my life. Not that I didn't love it. It was a great job, but it was time to move on. So then I had a period of sort of just trying to find work and starting all over again. And it was at that point that I got this episode of Murphy Brown. And as a result of that Murphy Brown, the head of the network, when they were casting The Nanny, when The Nanny was being developed a year later as a pilot, the head of the network, which was the network that also did Murphy Brown, CBS, said the guy that was in Murphy Brown, he's the guy that should be Maxwell Sheffield. And he was, I didn't know this till afterwards, he kind of championed me as that character. And in the end, that's what happened. He got his way, and I was Maxwell.
And that's an amazing story because when you first auditioned for The Nanny, you probably didn't think it was going to be that successful, that it would be all over the world. And I remember watching The Nanny when I was a pro wrestler in Germany and also Canada and French Canadian territory, hearing it in French and then hearing it in German. So this is such an international show. For sure.
It is. I believe it's the biggest international seller that Sony had because it's a universal theme. Every culture from China to Germany to South America, they all have the story of the cheeky servant who's smarter than the master and who is secretly in love with the boss. That's those archetypal stories are in every single culture. The cheeky servant who's,
for sure, yeah.
And who's sort of smarter than the boss. It's from Moliere onwards. And the idea of a woman coming to the door very inappropriately matched with the guy who answers the door. It's the Sound of Music. It's like when Maria comes to the Von Trapp family. And that story plays in every culture. So it was really smart. They didn't make it terribly, specific. It was not age relevant. It didn't have too many references, contemporary references. So you could put it in any different country, any different time. And it is going to work forever. I think The Nanny will be playing in reruns for the rest of time, more than any other show. I don't know if it's a reboot show, if you could remake it. I'm not sure how that would work, maybe. But as a rerun show, I don't see there any reason for it to ever stop because it works for everyone. You could be, living in an igloo in Iceland, and The Nanny would be relevant. you would know someone like that.
See, I love hearing you said the reboot, but I don't know. That would be interesting. That would be interesting as...
Yeah, I mean, I would be, it'd be fascinating. It'd be great to get together again and work together as a group again. And maybe someone's got a good idea for it. It would have to be a different sort of story. I mean, it would have to work a little differently. But, sign me up if someone can come up with a good idea and someone wants to buy it. Why not?
Just say Netflix, Charles. That's the one. One of those streaming services. Yes, exactly.
Well, there's so many now. There's Netflix, there's Hulu, there's Amazon, there's now YouTube have a Prime channel, which is a subscription channel. I did a show on YouTube Prime recently called Foursome, which is very successful. And so who knew YouTube would become a kind of Netflix rival?
Absolutely, Charles. And was it hard? Were you typecast after The Nanny ended at all?
Yeah, I mean, I knew going in that was going to happen. I remember saying to my agent when we started The Nanny, I said, this better run for a long time because I'm never going to work again after this. Because once you're a sitcom dad, it's really hard to get out from that. So it did take a long time. I kind of really had to grow physically, sort of just get older so that people could forget that guy they saw on the screen in the reruns. And so now that I'm the age I am, and you can look at The Nanny and look at me standing alongside it and not think they're the same person. So now I'm beginning to sort of work as a in my own right. And even though people go, oh, you were Maxwell Sheffield, there isn't the immediate connection.
And then you went back to theater, and that's where we are today talking about love letters. And I know you're going to introduce someone that also is going to be on the show today. And Charles, I just think it's just tremendous that you go back to theater, something that you really are passionate about.
I've always loved theater, and it sort of came and helped at the time when things were like a bit rocky career-wise and there wasn't a lot going on. I refound the theater, and the theater refound me, and it's something that I've always loved. I love working with an audience. It's what I was trained for, and you get that immediate feedback from an audience. There's a kind of conspiracy at that time where they suspend disbelief that they're not in a 19th century farmhouse, and they allow you to tell this story, and they allow themselves to go into their imagination and believe that you are someone else. I just find the whole experience kind of magical. And yes, Love Letters is a magical piece. It's a fantastic piece of theater. It's really quite brilliant. And as you say, Susie, I'm doing it with the lady that I met all those years ago, 35 years ago at Central.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
My wife, Susan, and we're going to be doing this together.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. Oh, wow. Now tell us how you met real quick before we get to love letters.
Go ahead, Charlie.
She was practicing her dancing in one of the rehearsal studios at drama school, and I was peeking through the glass window in the door, and I summoned up the courage to say, do you want to go get a drink after class? And she eventually said yes.
I actually I saw him in a performance of a Shakespeare play, and I thought, I like him. So I had my eye on him from then on. But that's how it all started.
That's how it all started. And, we were two actors in L.A. and both working in Equity Waiver Theater and doing odd jobs in our spare time.
Yeah.
But we really never worked together. We've done a couple of little things together. We were in a play together a couple of years ago, and we did have a scene, but it wasn't really working together as a couple. But this is the first opportunity we've had to really work with each other on a two-person play. So we're both really excited about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Love Letters now. Tell us about that.
Well, it's by A.R. Gurney, and it's a series of, the conceit is that these two people, a man and a woman, have known each other all their lives since they were children, and they corresponded with each other through letters. They didn't like talking on the telephone. They would meet in person, but they established right from the start when they were kids a letter writing habit, and they would write to each other letters. And so the play follows their lives and follows their relationship through these letters to each other, which they read. So each actor reads that character's letters to the other. And it's just so beautifully constructed, so beautifully built by the author. You really feel kind of the audience is brought along on this very sad, very funny,
Yes.
very moving, very empowering love story.
And the letters we're not speaking the letters to one another. We're really speaking it out to the audience as if they are viewing us writing the letter as we speak the words. So it's only at the end that there is any kind of connection between the two actors.
It's been phenomenally successful. It's been, it's one of those plays that you can take anywhere. And from its beginnings on Broadway and in London, it's been in every capital in the world, every city in the world, played by different couples. A lot of married actors have played it, and some that are not married, they've just done pairings. It's just a beautiful evening and perfectly suited to this event for the Robert F. Kennedy Children's Action Corps. It's perfect for that space. The North Shore Music Theater is the most beautiful space, a lovely theater, and Bill Haney has been kind enough to offer it to us for the evening. He's a great supporter of the cause. So we're looking forward to a fantastic evening on the 7th.
So how did you guys get connected with that, Susan? How did you guys get connected with this charity?
Well, that was really me. A friend of mine who worked at the RFC Children's Action Corps, he had been on Days of Our Lives as a recurring barman at one of the bars, and he got in touch with me one day and said, "I'm doing this thing for children at risk in Massachusetts. Would you come and do something with the kids?" And I came out and did a class and had such an extraordinary experience meeting these incredible kids and these wonderful people that run the organization, and learned about how it began as a legacy to Robert F. Kennedy after his assassination. And they do incredible work. They intervene in the lives of children and young adults who are sort of on the verge of falling into incarceration and the penal system. And they try to take them out of harm's way. Most of them come from very broken homes, very dysfunctional families, maybe abuse, a lot of drug use around them. And so they come in and they take them out of that threatened situation and put them into a residential program where they can be educated and nurtured and sort of helped to avoid those things and become sort of, meaningful and contributive members of society rather than just being thrown into some juvenile detention center.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And how did you guys...
Yeah. And the change is extraordinary with these kids.
Oh, it is, I'm sure. And Susan, did you enjoy this, the auditioning process coming to September 7th, especially because you guys are in LA, right?
Yes.
So it's in Boston. So how long is this audition process? Not auditioning, but I mean, preparing for the event.
The preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've read it together several times, and we've, worked out, how we want it to look. And it's just been actually just reading it over and over together. And that's really been the preparation. He's my director, so I'm taking whatever direction he wants to give me.
The great thing with this is, and the playwright's very specific. In the actual play, he insists on, no kind of frills. He doesn't want there to be any direction as such. He doesn't want the actors to be, over playing anything.
Yes, no
or
exaggeration.
acting. He says just sit and read them and the words will do it. So we've really not had to do very much other than just get familiar with it and feel comfortable with it, and then let it sort of unfold on the night.
That's fantastic. Now, Susan, your acting career, after you met Charles, what other performances did you do? Mostly theater in your career?
I did mostly theater in Los Angeles, and I did do a few low-budget movies and one not low-budget movie, and then I also was doing like voiceover, looping groups, things like that, but mostly theater.
And she has
some TV.
She has a card, one of those collector's cards she played a resistance leader in Star Trek Next Generation. So she actually has a convention, one of those collectible cards.
I get fan mail for that, which is funny. But that was sort of what I did out here, a sort of jobbing actress. And then when I had children, I was lucky to be able to spend time with my children, which is what was very important for me. And I was lucky enough because Charlie was on the nanny at that time. So, I could be with them and raise them, which was really very, very important to me.
That's fantastic. And Charles, again, everyone can find out more information on September 7th. Love Letters, where can they go for that information, Charles?
They can go to N for nuts, S for sugar, M for mother, T for Tommy. So nsmt.org. And that is the North Shore Music Theater.org. And then click on events, current, I think it's shows and events or something. And you'll see a page for Love Letters. And it's Friday, September the 7th at 8 o'clock. We have a Q&A afterwards. And then for, I think, an extra donation, you can then we have a meet and greet in the lobby where you can actually come meet Susan and me and chat about the show and get some pictures taken. So it'll be a great evening, and it's all going to this terrific cause. You'll also learn a bit more about the Robert F. Kennedy Children's Action Corps and the great work that they do. And it's all being hosted by local news personality and newscaster Susan Warnick, that everyone in Massachusetts knows and holds near and dear. She for many years was a regular appearance on the TV screens in the local news arena.
Well, that's great. And so, Charles, best place people can connect with you social media-wise and stuff, because you talked about you had your latest project you mentioned, but best place we can find info on you to kind of connect and see what's going on with your latest project.
Well, I've got a Facebook page, and I've got a Twitter page. C_Shaughnessy is my Twitter handle, and Instagram, Charles Shaughnessy. Facebook, you just go to Charles Shaughnessy, look it up, and you'll see there's a page there that you can join and follow me. That'll give you all the information that you could possibly need.
Well, guys, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Best of luck on the 7th, and I really enjoyed the conversation and story of how you guys met and Charles's career.
Great.
All right, take care.
All right, Neil. It was great talking to you, Neil.
Talking to you.
Thank you so much. Take care, guys.
Good luck with everything.
All right, thanks. Okay. See ya. Thanks.
Bye now.
All right, okay, bye-bye. We're back to the Neil Haley Show in the Author's Corner segment, and when we talk about 9/11, I can't believe it's been so many years, and my guest knows that for sure as well, and it changed his life in so many ways, and we constantly think about it getting closer and closer to that date, so I'm excited to welcome to the program the former commissioner of the New York City Police Department, Bernard Kerik, author of The Grave, Above the Grave. Commissioner, thanks for calling. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing okay.
All right, let's kind of like just delve into I'll give you my quick, I want to hear your 9/11 story when you heard that the first plane crashed. What was your thought? How did you feel? It just had to have been just so real when it happened.
Well, when the first plane hit Tower 1, I was actually in my office, and my chief of staff came in and said that a plane hit Tower 1. I thought it was a small plane. I didn't get too excited. We have crisis and tragedy and things like that all the time in New York. I figured it was a small Cessna that flew through a window of the building. Until I saw the damage, I actually looked out my conference room window and I could see the damage to the building. I called the mayor. I told him I would meet him down there. And I was probably at the scene within 7 or 8 minutes. And we could not get onto Vesey Street because people were jumping out of 1 and they were landing on that street and in the courtyard between Tower 1 and 2. And as I was there, I was probably there 2 or 3 minutes when the second plane slammed through the north side of Tower 2. And it was right on top of me. I was in front of that building, actually, when it happened. And we had to get out of the way of the debris and the plane that was coming down. And from that point on, I knew we were under attack.
Wow. And it was just unbelievable. And the entire journey and your story is very, very interesting as I was doing some more research later on in your career, but what you had to deal with, the aftermath of 9/11 and how New York City changed and how our lives have changed forever, pretty much, Commissioner. It's just,
Listen, the whole world's changed, really, as a result.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. So, why did you write this book? What was the reasoning? And again, it's not a memoir. It's written based on a character and kind of almost patterning some of your life. But what was the reason to do it this way?
Well, listen, I've done 2 bios already. They did quite well. I was looking to do something new, so I took my experience in the NYPD, my policing experience, and also, a lot of people don't know I spent 4 years working for the royal family of Saudi Arabia.
Oh, wow.
4.5 years working for the King of Jordan. So I've taken that stuff and I put it into a story that replicates a little bit of what I was doing. It's a present-day police commissioner who, back on September 11th, was a captain in the NYPD in charge of the precinct down by the Twin Towers. And he lost a lot of friends, but he also lost his wife. His wife was on one of those planes. And, this is a guy that's had to deal with this threat in his mind. And now he's the New York City Police Commissioner. And he's battling a terror group that hits him personally on a number of different fronts throughout the book. So I think your listeners will enjoy, if you're into this cop intrigue, terrorism stuff, and you want to know what threats are out there, what we face, how these guys operate, what they do, where they come from. I think you'll enjoy the book.
Well, it sounds very, very interesting. I like always police drama in certain ways and kind of looking into these specific things. But we're going to learn a lot from your book that terrorism, you guys are really watching out for us on a regular basis, especially like a city like New York City, for terrorism, especially when so many people flood into New York City as tourists all the time, for sure.
No, absolutely. Look, as I call it constantly, New York City is a target-rich environment for this type of threat. So we have to stay on top of it, and we do a really good job at it. But we just have to realize that the threats never diminish. They're there. They're going to be there, and we have to make sure we stay on top of it, or else we get attacked again.
And if you're not able to, I wouldn't say profile, but be able to really question people and stop something before it happens, and like how talking about people's rights and the specific things that we're dealing with how police are being targeted in certain ways, Commissioner, that's one of the biggest issues, right? Our protection or,
yes,
yeah, for sure.
A lot of it is, look, the key to fighting terrorism these days, most importantly, is the collection and dissemination of intelligence. We do a lot better today than we did, 17 years ago on dealing with local, state, and federal authorities, dealing with the Interpol and international authorities on combating terror. But we can't let our guard down. We can't get complacent. You have to remain vigilant, and you have to realize the threat that's out there has an enormous amount of patience. from 1983 right up into 2001, they hit us constantly on the international front. Even, 1993, the World Trade Center, the first time. But they're always out there. They're always looking for ways to get by our security. And, we let our guard down, they're going to be right there in our face.
That's so true. Yeah. If we let our guard down, they're going to be right in our face. And how can you, when you see something happen and you get a report, how do you respond to that? And in this book, it's talking about that for sure, because of the ways that you sometimes have to stop someone that could be a possible terrorist or could kill another police officer or civilians. You have to act that not ask questions and act. And that's what you, as police departments across the country, need to be able to do and have the rights to do to protect our country.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And, unfortunately today, I feel that we live in this politically correct world where, everybody's worried about what somebody's going to think or how they're going to be, looked at. The bottom line is, if you see something, say something. Don't worry about who you're going to offend or anything else. We've seen too many times here in the United States, whether it's San Bernardino, Orlando, Boston, everybody always seemed to know there was a problem with those people, but they never said a word. And that resulted in a number of deaths. So I think the key is, don't worry about who you're going to offend. Don't worry about, how people are going to look at you if you make a complaint. If you have a gut feeling there's a problem, let somebody know.
Absolutely. And that's what people definitely need to do. By reading your book, you're going to see that. You're going to see the commissioner in this book kind of like you in certain ways, Commissioner. So we have to understand that when you write characters and create people, it is sometimes the truth in certain ways, and then other things are fictionalized. So you just have to kind of read the book and figure it out for yourself, right? If this was something that really happened or it's something that kind of made it more exciting, right?
That's it. And there's a lot of things that September 11th that's in there that's based on my reflection that I think people would find interesting.
Well, absolutely. We'll never forget September 11th and your great service to this country, and especially New York City. And everyone needs to check out Bernard Kerik's book. It's available now. Everyone can check it out. Amazon, all different places. Do you have a website as well, Commissioner, that people can check you out?
They can find me all over social media just by my name.
All right. Well, sounds good. Thanks for being on the show. Appreciate it. And thank you for your service again.